Hello viewers, I'm now joined by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Ambassador Nduhungirehe, who was earlier today in Dar es Salaam attending the SADC EAC Special Summit on the ongoing security situation in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. You've attended the ministerial meeting that preceded the special summit. Can you tell us what our viewers can learn from both the ministerial meeting and the EAC-SADC summit?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. This summit, joint summit of the East African Community and the Southern African Development Community, SADC, is a historical summit because it's the first of its kind. And then the topic for the item, the only item, which was the situation in Eastern DRC, was timely and appropriate. Because of the current situation in Eastern DRC, but also because the two communities were involved at different periods in the conflict in Eastern DRC. So yesterday we had a ministerial meeting to prepare the work or the working documents or the outcome documents also for the heads of state who met today. And we met yesterday. We had a fruitful meeting. Many ministers attended the ministerial meeting, but unfortunately DRC, although they were present, but were not represented at the appropriate level because it was the ambassador of DRC to Botswana and to SADC, because SADC has its headquarters in Gaborone, in Botswana, who attended.
And in the diplomatic terms, does that send any specific message?
Of course, it sends a diplomatic message, because when the only item on the agenda of a ministerial meeting is about your country, I think you should send a minister to provide information and to debate with your colleagues to try to find a solution. But nonetheless, we had a good meeting. We had an outcome document, and today we had the summit. After many hours of deliberations, we had successful conclusion, I will say, because there are many decisions that were made that are important to find a lasting solution to the crisis in Eastern DRC.
And what are some of those decisions? Because our viewers are eager to understand and get to know those decisions and how this is going to lead us to long-lasting peace in Eastern DRC, in particular in the region in general.
First of all, there was a decision of cessation of hostilities and an immediate ceasefire, because it was there was a broad consensus about that. You will recall that the AFC M23
yes.
had announced a unilateral ceasefire, but for a ceasefire to hold, it is important that all parties abide by the ceasefire. So now we had a summit of heads of state that include the Democratic Republic of Congo, the president of Congo, who was online from Kinshasa, that decided that ceasefire. So it's important. That is first. Second, there was a decision to renew or to organize political talks, direct political talks between the government of Congo and different known state actors. This is, I think, how they phrased it in the decision, including the M23. Because it's important now that the M23 would be able to engage into direct talks with the government of DRC, as Rwanda has always requested, because we have always believed that there is no military solution to this crisis, that a viable solution to find a lasting way out, or a lasting solution to this crisis, is by political means, political talks. So this is important. And we have also decided to merge the two peace processes that are current to try to find a solution to that crisis, the Rwanda process and the Nairobi process, which will now become a Nairobi/Rwanda process. And we have also decided that we will maybe find a panel of 3 heads of state who would work together in order to find a solution. So it's a new approach that would, I hope, help the parties, the warring parties in Eastern DRC, finding a lasting solution to the crisis.
Are these mechanisms, were these mechanisms present in the previous conversations or in the previous summits? Because we had the summit of the, a special summit of the EAC. I understand SADC also had a meeting. We also had the Rwanda and Nairobi peace processes. Do we have a new mechanism for enforcing the resolutions of this joint summit between EAC and SADC?
For the cessation of hostilities and ceasefire, we had mandated the Joint Chief of Staff of SADC and EAC, so the Joint Chief of Defense, to help in monitoring the implementation of the ceasefire, but also to give technical direction on other issues, humanitarian issues on the ground that were decided by heads of state. And there is also the ministerial meeting. There will be regular ministerial meetings, joint ministerial meeting, EAC-SADC. The first one will be held within 30 days to receive the report of the Joint Chief of Defense, to decide on a roadmap on those measures. There are measures that need to be implemented immediately, though others on medium term and others on long term. So we'll have a roadmap, and also think on other issues that could be discussed to help bring lasting peace in Eastern DRC. So there's a ministerial meeting, and of course there is a summit that would be convened at least once a year. And beyond those political and military structures, there will also be a technical and administrative secretariat to follow on a day-to-day basis on how decisions would be implemented.
So from what I understand, there are mechanisms to make sure this gets implemented. But notable to this gathering was the absence of M23 or AFC/M23. What does it tell us? Will they be enforced to implement these resolutions even though they were not present at the meeting? How does that work?
It's not the first time that heads of state of the region take decisions involving the M23. Even under the Rwanda process, we signed on 31st of July a ceasefire that entered into force on 4th of August, a ceasefire to be respected not by the signatories, but by the warring parties in Eastern DRC. We believe that with the incentives now of broad political process, with direct talks between the M23 and the government of DRC, and also with these merged process, Nairobi/Rwanda, I think this is enough. We believe that is enough incentive to understand that there is now a new perspective for peace, for long-term peace in Eastern DRC and the region. So let's seize this moment, this opportunity to work together to see that we can bring lasting peace in our region.
Now, still, this is the last one on the enforcement still. In the previous meetings, special meetings, some of the resolutions were not implemented by the people who attended those. Do we now have hope that all the parties are going to implement what was agreed upon?
This has always been the issue. It's not about the mechanisms only. The first thing that is needed to have peace in our region is good faith and a political will. There are so many agreements that were signed, approved by the region, including the DRC, that were not implemented. We are talking about the M23. The M23, the name of M23 is from the date of a peace agreement that was not implemented, the 23rd March 2009, the Goma agreement. And we know that the government of DRC did not respect almost all the agreement that it has committed to. But we hope now that with this large group of two communities that were involved or interested in the resolution of the crisis, that now common sense will come back, because we know that there is no military solution to this crisis. We tried a military solution in 2013 with this MONUSCO FIB, but there was no political solution that followed to address the political grievances of the community, the Congolese Tutsi, that the M23 defends. So now, it's now or never to have results on the ground.
So you've already mentioned that, but I would like you to leave our viewers with a message on how hopeful or not hopeful we are with this, because we realized a military solution is not going to work. Are we hopeful that this non-military solution is going to work this time around?
Rwanda has always been hopeful, or at least trying to really understand and see that every moment, every agreement that is signed, every meeting will bring something new. Actually, His Excellency President Kagame this morning had tried to warn the meeting, the heads of state, that the summit should not be another meeting. We had had so many meetings, so it's now the time to deliver. This conflict has been going on for 30 years, more or less. After 30 years, it's a time lost for development, for cooperation, for trade, because this is a region that has many opportunities. The region, Great Lakes region of Africa. So we should reap the economic dividends of peace. But for this, we need to solve the security issues that are in our region, and to solve them, we need political will, mainly from Kinshasa. And we are here as a neighboring country, as a region, members of EAC, members of SADC, to work around the clock and then try to find a quick resolution of this crisis.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much for having me.